Coming up on this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society, we also made a new t-shirt. It's dangerous to go alone, so the Nintendo Cartridge Society goes with ya. Welcome to Nintendo Cartridge Society, and happy Nintendo Direct Day to you, Mark. My name is Patrick Ellers, and I'm always joined by my co-host, Mark Mitchell. How's it going, man?
It's going great. Happy Nintendo Direct Day to you as well.
Many happy Nintendo 64 Virtual Console games.
Yeah, no kidding. One for everybody.
One for everybody. And I apologize for saying Virtual Console. That's not what this is.
That's right. But who can blame us? We're too wound up. We're giddy.
That's right. There was a Nintendo Direct today. We're going to spend the majority of this episode talking about it. It was 40 minutes, so this episode will be like 3 hours. I don't know. But first, Mark, before we get into that, the Sonic Forces borrowing program, would you like to participate in it? What does it entail? These are the two questions. What does it entail? It entails borrowing my copy of Sonic Forces for the Nintendo Switch. You may end up accidentally borrowing my copy of Untitled Goose Game in a box for Sonic Forces. That's fine. It's supposed to happen. It's part of the program, which is perfect. All you have to do in order to participate is get your name on the list. How do you get your name on the list? The next logical question. You email us at nintendocartridgesociety@gmail.com and give us a mailing address so we can send you my copy of Sonic Forces or Untitled Goose Game for the Nintendo Switch. You play it for as long as you want. You send it back. I've paid for postage both ways. And you just have a great time with it.
Yeah, like Patrick said, it is the perfect borrowing program. Mm-hmm. Maybe a third question that comes up if you're a newer listener to the show is how long has this program been going?
Years, just absolute years and years.
It's been half a decade probably at this point.
I prefer not to think about that.
Think of how many smiles you've brought to people.
Dozens. It's a slow-moving process because people literally take as long as they want with these games. A lot of times people forget about them. At least once so far, they've gotten lost in the mail. So,
are they out there?
They're out in the world.
The games are out there in the world
yes.
right now.
Yep.
So see, it could be you.
It could be you.
It's like Publisher Clearinghouse, kind of. That's not a perfect program, though.
No, that is not a perfect program. Because it's like only one person at a time wins it, right?
Right.
2 people at a time win this one.
Here's another thing that you can do is you can leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere that you get your podcasts that allows you to rate things or star things or give them thumbs up. We appreciate it so much when you do. It really, really helps people find the show. Patrick and I love reading your written reviews, and if you leave us a 5-star review on the US Apple Podcast Store, we'll give you a shout out on the show. If you leave us a review anywhere else, we can't see it, but we still want to acknowledge it. So let us know. Send us an email. Hit us up on Twitter. And we will give you a shout out.
And then lastly, you should join our Discord. Send us an email or hit us up on Twitter. Let us know that you would like to be invited in. We will invite you in where people are having great conversations about Nintendo stuff. It was popping off this morning as we were discussing the Direct live as it was happening. But Mark, now you and I are I would say we're prepared to discuss the Direct a couple hours after it happened. Let's do that. Let's do that right now.
And I think you're right. I think after a few hours, I am more prepared to talk about this Direct than I was initially after it.
Oh, do you want to tip your hand and reveal in what way?
Well,
has your thinking about it changed?
So I have watched it twice, but I have to admit the second time that I watched it, I was kind of fast forwarding through some of it,
right?
Where it's I get it, but
that's always true with these things, right?
Yeah, definitely.
You always get to the point where you're like, oh, this is the JRPG they decided to dig into for 12 minutes. Skip.
I actually thought this one didn't really have.
This one did not have that.
It moved pretty quickly.
Brisk.
Yeah, some game announcements, this Fire Emblem game that we're going to talk about in just a second. And then immediately, here's the trailer, moving on. We're not diving into this in any sort of depth at this moment.
Which is kind of strange for a Fire Emblem game, especially one that's coming out in 4 months.
So, what were your overall impressions? Like, Nintendo Direct happened. How are you feeling?
Well,
what was the temperature?
Yeah. So you have to remember that I was living in a land of no expectations, right? Because I was like, look, man, all these rumors about, HD Wind Waker and a Metroid Prime remake. I'm going to let those rumors wash over me as they have. I've been bombarded by those waves in the past.
You are but a stone in the rumor river.
I am but a stone in the rumor river. That's right. A rock in the rumor river, please. That's better.
That is better.
So let's go with the alliteration, please. So I actually felt pretty good about this Direct. I recognize that there are no megaton announcements in here, and these sort of biggest things are either reveals of things that or not even reveals, but just like presentations of things that we've seen a bunch of times, or like in the case of Fire Emblem Engage, something that was heavily rumored and leaked and all that kind of stuff. So like the one thing that I did say yesterday that I wanted was to be surprised, and I wasn't really surprised, but there are a lot of games in here that I'm excited to play. So
yeah, I would say that there is one game in here that was I never in a million years would have called happening, and I'll call it out when we get to it.
I kind of want to guess.
Okay, yeah. Go ahead and guess.
Can I guess?
Yes.
Will you tell me if I get it right?
I will.
Fitness Boxing Fist
Yes,
of the North Star.
Yes, that's exactly it. That was a surprise to me. Didn't see that one coming.
No, me neither. Well, okay. In terms of a bundle of announcements, I feel like this was, just like in the medium to like low end of what Nintendo does. But it just in terms of like a Nintendo presentation, this thing was so fast. There were so many games in here. The Fist of the North Star thing is so funny.
I
Such
laughed
a funny
so
turn.
hard.
I laughed uproariously when there was the fifth game on the presentation here, and then when Mr. Miyamoto comes in to just like clown us all for like 5 minutes of just like strangely paced Was anything in that an announcement? I don't know. It was so weird.
It was so weird.
And I loved it.
I think that so my kind of like takeaways were like two parts of it. Like I agree with you, like middle tier at best, like Nintendo Direct as far as that goes. But after watching this, my thought is like, oh yeah, we are at the end of the Switch as we know its like lifespan.
See, that is fascinating because this is not the release schedule for the end of a Nintendo console's lifespan.
Oh, I totally disagree.
I just there are some absolute bangers in this lineup. Like we got the new Zelda game, Tears of the Kingdom.
I mean, both the
that is the
GameCube and the Wii U
I
would like to introduce you to a Zelda game that is cross-generation.
There's also a Fire Emblem game in here, which again we are going to talk about.
Yeah. So I just feel like looking at this with the Kirby remaster from the Wii era coming early this year, like I think that Nintendo, because they are only supporting one platform now, they are just able to support the Switch better, and so but I also think that this next hardware that I'm predicting will come around, I think probably the time of the Breath of the Wild sequel, which I'm going to call it that until we get to the
what. Okay, fine.
But
fine, I retract what I said earlier. I said Breath of the Wild too.
But I think this hardware will be different in that I think it will be very similar to the Switch, almost like an NES to Super NES type upgrade. And so I think it's going to be fully backward compatible. So what we think about as like Nintendo cross-generation moments, I think is going to be different this time as well. Like I think we'll be able to get this new hardware and you won't be left out of this new Fire Emblem game that'll been released just a few months earlier. Like all that kind of stuff. That is my feeling coming out of this presentation.
So that's an interesting feeling. Do you think then that Breath of the Wild would be cross-generational, like you're saying?
I do think so, yeah.
And then what? Future Nintendo games exclusive to the new Switch hardware?
I do, and I think that's, again, jumping ahead, why we didn't see any footage of Pikmin 4.
Oh, interesting. It's just, I mean, like that is a fascinating idea that we are seeing like signposts for the end of the generation. whatever that means in this era. But I also just like everything is still selling so well. Like, why launch the new hardware unless it's like just to get systems in the hands of people so that when they do find, because like, right, one of the things that we saw with Splatoon 3, there are so many Switches out there right now, and Splatoon is popular enough that it became the fastest selling video game in Japan ever, right, with like almost 3.5 million copies sold opening weekend. Unheard of, astronomically high. Part of that is only possible because there are so many of those systems out in the wild. And like, maybe right now you can sell, or next year you can sell the new Switch without there being a game that you have to play on it, just so that in a couple years time, when they need to launch the next big thing, there are people ready to buy it on that platform.
Yeah, and that's why I feel like this will be more of like a soft generation cross, where just in the same way that the OLED model was set up kind of as like, here's the premium version of this. People are like buying it. That's their first Nintendo Switch, but also a lot of people are upgrading. Right. I think the same sort of thing happens with this next Switch, where it's like, like in the beginning, how many is Nintendo going to be able to ship anyways, especially like right now? So why not, instead of waiting until the Switch, is really trending downward, why wait? Why wait until you reach that point?
I mean, I guess why wait is partially because like you're still selling these, right? Like, part of the reason that you put out new hardware is like because your hardware sales are flagging, and it's like time to put out the next thing. But like, I don't know, the all of that sort of like reaches back to a different era of Nintendo for me. That like, I guess you sort of see it in the transition from the DS to the 3DS, but even in that, it's not just a hardware upgrade, right? It's also like the 3D effects are like that's part of it, and they really leaned into like the camera functionality and like AR stuff.
Yeah, for lack of a better term, it was the gimmick.
Yes,
right?
That's right.
Like that they, because in that era of Nintendo hardware, you had the Wii, which the motion controls were the big thing, and then the Wii U, which the tablet controller was like the big thing to be. Each of Nintendo's like hardware had this sort of like again gimmick that everything
like a
revolved
central
around
idea.
From. Yes, yeah.
And sometimes that reads as gimmicky, and sometimes it's like truly the direction. It's the mission of
it really
kind
of depends on whether it's successful or not.
Totally
right.
Yeah. But like, we were talking before, like the example of like the Game Boy to the Game Boy Advance. Like that's a pretty linear progression. You put more buttons, you let it play in color, right? Like that's really just a hardware upgrade. But like outside of the handhelds, the GameCube to the Wii is that's revolutionary. From the Wii to the Wii U is also revolutionary. From the Wii U to the Switch, like every single one of those is like a catastrophic change in like the form factor and like how you interact with the thing.
Yeah, I guess like I feel like we're in a different generation of Nintendo than the generation that felt like, okay, to really differentiate ourselves and to like the Blue Ocean audience that those sort of like you just came up with a better term for it. Central thesis.
Yeah, the mission of it. Yes.
Those were to like broaden the audience of gaming, and gaming now is big enough without that I don't know. It doesn't feel to me that is Nintendo's like focus anymore. Nintendo's focus, the way that they're broadening their audience, is through different like mediums, right? So they're getting into film, they're getting into theme parks, they're getting into Lego, they're getting into apparel. Like they're doing all of those things, and I think that is what they see as the future of like expanding Nintendo. And gaming is so ubiquitous at this point that I don't know that you need to that they necessarily feel the need to like radically change. Because really, when you look at the Wii U to the Switch, like that I would say is more of like an evolutionary step than a big.
But that evolution, to be cheesy as heck, that evolution is revolution, right?
Sure.
Because taking the gamepad and making it something that you can play anywhere, like literally does change your relationship to the hardware, right?
Totally.
It's not just a tweak. It's like fundamentally different.
I mean, that's a really great point. I mean, we won't have to wait that long to find out whether I'm right or wrong because, it's like 8 months until Breath of the Wild
Right.
2. I'm still calling it that for right now.
It's going to be like an hour before we can use its real name.
Is
like Rumpelstiltskin in here.
Yeah. Is going to be released, and that's when I think we'll probably know more about Nintendo's next hardware. But really quick before we get into the nuts and bolts of this, kind of like the second thing, we talked about it in the episode that we released earlier on Tuesday, is my sense of it is that a lot of the reaction to this Nintendo Direct is based on what was rumored for it and reacting to the fact that those rumors did not pan out.
Right. And this is always true. This is always true of a Nintendo Direct, and especially back in the days when it was like we knew that there was going to be a Direct for a week, or when it was like rumored for a week or whatever, and like things would pop up. That Star Fox racing game, the Donkey Kong game that could still be out there, Metroid Prime 4, Metroid Prime Remake, the Wind Waker and Twilight Princess HD ports from the Wii U. All of that stuff, like, still out there, still could come at any point. But yeah, when none of those things appear here, and I gotta say, one of them did. Breath of the Wild 2 did appear at this thing, right? And the Fire Emblem game that I promise we are about to talk about.
And look, even in a vacuum, I think this would be a okay Nintendo Direct, but I think because a lot of people had in their minds like games that were supposed to show up here, and then when that didn't pan out, I think that does color the conversation a little bit.
It certainly does. I just I don't know if anyone thought that this, and whatever, everyone's entitled to their opinion, but like I don't think that this was a bad Direct by any stretch of the imagination, simply because it starts by revealing a new Fire Emblem game.
And are we finally going to talk about
Let's
this new
talk
Fire
about
Emblem
this new
game?
Fire Emblem
Okay.
game. Fire Emblem Engage is coming out January 20th, a scant couple months away. This game was, of course, leaked a couple months back. The protagonist is some sort of reincarnation of a dragon, or whatever magical nonsense. Has blue and red hair in a very like bright graphic sort of way, and seemingly summons heroes from previous Fire Emblem games, possibly to gain their strength, possibly to romance and or marry them. It's not clear to me.
It is not clear.
It is not clear. So just from the little bit that we saw of this game, Mark, do you have any initial impressions?
I really liked Three Houses. Part of the thing, and that's the only Fire Emblem game that I've ever finished. Loved Three Houses. One of the things I really liked about Three Houses was the monastery and kind of like the school aspect of it. I thought that was a lot of fun.
Monastery.
Yes, and this game does not have that. Doesn't mean it doesn't have some other thing. But I think if this was the first, if Three Houses did not exist, and if I had not played Three Houses, I would not have been very excited for Engage. But because I played Three Houses and it got me in there with that like school thing, but I enjoyed the entire experience. I am looking forward to checking out Fire Emblem Engage. Two things that I hope from it. One is that it will continue to have like the difficulty options that
I'm sure
Three
it will,
Houses
right?
did, because I really enjoy just being like, you know what? I'm just doing the easy. Like the battles, I'm just playing this very casually.
Permadeath off.
Yeah, for sure. And then second, I hope the fact that it's called Engage means that we're going to be able to actually
Flying
like
the Starship Enterprise.
You're going to be able to really romance people for real.
I think so, because there's also a lot of ring imagery in the trailer. I think the game is going to be based even more on romancing than previous Fire Emblem games, where if this ends up being like a relationship sim / Fire Emblem game, I'm all the way in. I'm all the way in anyway, right? Like, I fell in love with Fire Emblem with Fire Emblem Awakening on the 3DS, and I've been sort of pot committed on all of them since then, right? That just like a new Fire Emblem game comes out, and I'm like, yeah, I'm at least trying it. I'm probably beating it, and so that's like exactly where I am for this. And if I can romance Marth, like. What are we even talking about?
Was Marth? I don't know Fire Emblem that well. Was Marth the only like hero from, because in the beginning they talk about like they're like
Roy is in there.
There were like 14 emblems or 12 emblems, you know, that like protected us from this dragon. And so, yeah, were there other ones?
There were other ones in there, yeah. So Roy for sure, Marth, yes, and then I know I recognized a couple others, but not as like the main heroes. Like I didn't see Corrin, I didn't see, like Lucina or like any of those other like big main characters from the more recent games. Oh, there, Celica, one of the sister of the brother sister pair of Fire Emblem Echoes,
Shadows of Valentia.
Shadows of Valentia. Thank you. Yeah, she was in there. So yeah, they're definitely. It seems like they are sampling from like all across the series, which is very cool and very exciting. It is the kind of thing that makes me wish I could like go back and like play all the Fire Emblem games that I missed. But so many of them are on. Well, first of all, so many of them have never been localized. And then like, just others are on like inaccessible hardware or whatever. But yeah, I'm very excited for this game. There is a Divine Edition that is going to be coming out. No price is listed. Pre-orders are coming soon, which means that at some point here we're going to have a mad scramble to pre-order these things on Best Buy and Walmart and whatever. There is a product page on Nintendo's website too, so maybe they're just doing it. It's not clear to me yet. The Divine Edition comes with the base game for Fire Emblem Engage, a steelbook, art cards, an art book, and a poster. So I don't know. I'm just keeping my eyes peeled for that. This is one that I want. I want this Divine Edition. Not always the kind of guy who's going after these special editions, but like this will be the one for me.
I think it'll look just based on the image that they showed, it looked like the same size as the Fire Emblem like 30th anniversary thing that they did. Like it seems like they'll look very sleek next to each other.
Yeah, I agree. Which is also the same size as the Metroid Dread one that I have. Like I think they've landed on a nice like form factor. So I'm very excited about that. Again, January 20th is when this comes out, which is so very, very soon.
Yeah. Up next was It Takes Two, releasing on November 4th. New to Switch, but previously released on other platforms. It's 2-player co-op, either split screen or local multiplayer with 2 Switches. One of the things that in my second watch, is it sounds like you can do it. There's something called like a friend pass. So I think you may be able to play online if only one person has the copy of the game.
That's good. That's good.
But I know that this is a highly praised game that has been out for a while now, but I am excited for this. I'm planning on picking it up on Switch. I think it will be a lot of fun.
The hook of the game is that you're playing as if not a divorced couple, a couple whose relationship is on the rocks, who magically get turned into little like dolls by their child, and then you have to do like 3D platforming, puzzle solving. To repair your relationship or whatever. Who knows what the goal is?
Yeah,
be not dolls anymore, probably. So yeah, I love a good 3D platformer and a good co-op game, and this looks like it's going to be both. Next up is Fatal Frame: Mask of the Lunar Eclipse, which is coming out sometime in 2023. It is a remake of the 2008 Wii game co-developed by Tecmo, Nintendo, and Grasshopper Manufacture. It's a Fatal Frame game. You're walking around a spooky place taking pictures and trying not to get killed by ghosts.
Yeah, this is the first time that Mask of the Lunar Eclipse has been released, at least in America. I don't know if it was released in Europe, but the one thing that I think is interesting about this is that a while ago we got a re-release of the Wii U game that was a Wii U exclusive, but it was multi-platform. Same thing happening here. This was a Wii exclusive, but is also being released on, like PlayStation and Xbox. It's coming everywhere. But I've never played a Fatal Frame game.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't really feel like it's for me. But I don't know. Maybe it'd be fun to take pictures of scary ghosts.
Yeah, it might be. It seems like it might be fun to play like together, like with another person.
I see. Yeah.
After that is Xenoblade Chronicles 3 DLC Wave 2, which releases October 13th.
Mm-hmm.
So just about a month away. They teased a new character,
Eno.
Yeah.
Yeah, who's like a robot lady. She's part of Wave 3, which doesn't have a release date yet.
Wait, I think she's Wave. Isn't she Wave 2? She's in the
I
one
think
that comes
she's
out
in-
October 13th.
I think she's in Wave 3.
Well, then what's in Wave 2?
I don't know.
I think it's
Maybe
this robot lady.
Maybe the robot lady is in Wave 2. Look, obviously we're not a Xenoblade Chronicles 3 podcast, but yeah, there are a couple times here where we sort of just like checked in with either DLC plans or like continued support plans that we already sort of know the shape of them, but it's kind of neat confirmation that like here's a new playable character in the game, and like new quests that like come with her and stuff. So that'll be part of Xenoblade Chronicles 3 ongoing support. Then next is Mark's favorite game, Fitness Boxing Fist of the North Star, coming out March 2023.
Never in a million years would have guessed that this was a thing that would ever happen.
Can I tip my hand here? Reveal. I don't know what Fist of the North Star is.
I just
It's
know
an anime. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's an anime. I think like a manga as well. It's known, I think, for like the "You Are Already Dead" meme.
Okay. I don't know if I know that. I
Oh,
don't think I know
okay,
that
yeah.
name.
But anyways, yes, it's an anime. It's a manga, and the fact that this exists is amazing to me.
Fitness Boxing quietly becoming a just killer franchise on the Switch. I believe this is the third entry in the series. Just always showing up at the Nintendo Directs. And this one has an IP stapled to it,
Yep.
which I think is hilarious. More of this. If you're going to do fitness boxing games, like, yeah, put out one that's Rocky, put out one that's, Karate Kid. Like, let's do it.
Yeah, remember
Cobra
like
Kai, probably, if you want to be current.
in the kind of like the twilight years of the Rock Band and Guitar Hero franchises.
Yes.
When there was like it just like every band started
Beatles
to get
Rock
one.
Band, Metallica Guitar Hero. We had the Van Halen Guitar Hero.
Yeah, let us reach that point with fitness boxing, please. Where
Yes.
it's like every celebrity. Fitness boxing, Gordon Ramsay.
Yeah, why not?
Everybody's getting
He
one.
stays fit.
Tunic was the next game up, releasing September 27th on Switch. It's an isometric Zelda-like where you play as a little fox and you have to decode a made-up language. Like they talk about, your only guide is this in-game book.
Yeah, it's and it looks like an instruction manual with like illustrations that are very similar to the illustrations that are in the original Zelda and Zelda 2 instruction guides, but all of the language in it is like in a made-up language that you can decipher as you are working your way through the game.
And you're searching for like lost pages in the book. This is another game that has been out on Xbox and PlayStation, but is now coming to Switch. And this is another one that is incredibly highly regarded.
Yeah, I am absolutely going to play this game. I wanted to play it on Xbox. I believe it came to Xbox first. Or if it didn't, that was just my impression of it at any rate. And I was like, this is great. I'm still at this point subscribed to Xbox Game Pass. I'm going to check it out there. And it wasn't included in Game Pass.
Oh.
So another reason that I feel justified in having canceled my subscription to Game Pass for the third time. After Tunic, we got an update on the Front Mission remakes. So Front Mission, of course, is a series of mech combat games, originally released on like starting on like PlayStation, coming out in the 90s and then later. So the first Front Mission remake comes out November 2022. Front Mission 2, which was never released outside of Japan, releases sometime next year. And then also revealed in this set of trailers is that Front Mission 3, it will be out at some point in the future.
And this is the first of many, many, many Square Enix games to be featured in this Direct.
Yes.
It's really it's really interesting because Square Enix does not support Nintendo consoles with like their headline franchises, right? Like Final Fantasy 16 not going to be on a Nintendo platform.
Isn't it also not going to be on
Xbox
either?
But like Final Fantasy 15, like a new Kingdom Hearts game probably won't show up on Switch, like that kind of stuff.
Right.
And yet,
except for the cloud form.
Yeah, right. But yet they have found this like the games that previously would have been on the 3DS or previously would have been, like are now just making it to Switch, and so they release an incredible amount of content on Nintendo platform.
Yeah.
I was gonna say platforms, but
But it's
only
just
one.
the one platform, yeah. Well, and like it's so interesting that like we saw a lot of those like from the ground up remakes of the Super Nintendo Final Fantasy games on DS and 3DS. The Final Fantasy 4 and the Final Fantasy 5 remakes that are like little chibi like 3D guys, right? And that like the sort of new equivalent of that is like Live Alive, right? That like
Right.
that came out exclusively on Switch, which like that's huge, right? And it's just they found this other kind of aesthetic that they can make these games in, and all of that I think is incredibly cool.
Up next is Story of Seasons: A Wonderful Life, releasing next summer. The first of many, many farming games we're going to see in this direct.
Starting a farming count 1 at this point.
So this is a remake of the GameCube game. I think at this point it was still called Harvest Moon. That like Switch had it made. So when it was released on GameCube, it was Harvest Moon: A Wonderful Life. It is now Story of Seasons: A Wonderful Life. And I've never played this one. I've got to say, just kind of like
it's got a good reputation.
It does have a good reputation. My blanket statement on all of these farming sims is that Stardew Valley has kind of ruined me.
Right.
On a lot of these,
that's all you want to play now.
I tried to play I played the demo for the previous Story of Seasons, and I was like, I can't handle this. Like,
do you think
Stardew Valley just does this so well?
It just does it so well. What do you think it would take for there to be a farm game that could supplant if not supplant Stardew Valley for you, at least like be a game that you could play with?
Yeah, do you know what I think you would have to be is they would have to speed everything up. One of the things that I couldn't get into with the past Story of Seasons game on the demo is just like, because it was, I think partly because it's in 3D, everything takes forever. You move slowly, like your actions take so long, and it's like, we've got to like speed this up. Like, I just don't have the patience. It drove me
I want to play 6
crazy.
days in this setting.
Yeah. And so that would have to change, I think.
Up next, we move over to Splatoon 3 to get the announcement of its first post-release Splatfest. It's a funny thing to have to specify, but there was a pre-release Splatfest. This is happening September 23rd through the 25th. The theme is what you take with you to a desert island: grub, gear, or fun. So food, tools, or like playing cards.
Yeah.
And they said that there will be more free updates in the future, which I noted on our run of show here. Like, of course there are going to be more free updates in the future.
Yeah. I guess they just really, Splatoon 3, at least in Japan, blowing up.
Right.
And so I think they're just trying to get the word out on it as
also
in
in our
many ways
Discord,
as possible.
blowing up in our Discord
yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
Mark, are you staking out a team yet?
I've not. I think I'm Grub.
Okay, Team Grub.
Yeah, I think so.
I think I'm going Team Gear, because with gear, then I can hunt for food or fish.
Yep.
And the fishing could also be my fun.
That's
right.
That's a great point.
I feel like gear is the right answer.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Well,
if you have food, how are you going to start a fire? Right?
Well, we'll see if the this is no worldwide Splatfest, right? So this is just North America.
Probably, yeah.
So I guess we'll see if North America agrees with you.
Mm-hmm.
Octopath Traveler 2 announced, releasing February 24th, 2023.
I said earlier that I wasn't surprised in this direct. This surprised me.
Yeah, this surprised me too. I thought it was funny that these two games, this game is releasing so close to the new Fire Emblem game, because it just reminded me a little bit of what happened in July, where Live Alive released so close to Xenoblade Chronicles 3. And the same sort of thing happened there. I was interested in Xenoblade Chronicles 3, but then playing Live Alive, I was like, I think I'm a little RPG'd out. Yeah. But this time I think it'll happen in reverse. I think I'm going to get Fire Emblem. And since I played Octopath Traveler, or some of it, liked it, but found it tedious enough that I didn't finish it, that's kind of tempering my excitement for Octopath Traveler 2.
Yeah.
But I'm very excited for the soundtrack.
I'm very excited for the soundtrack. I am also, I don't know. This may be I'm preparing to get myself just burned so hard that it's going to be exactly like Octopath Traveler 1, but there were some things in this that gave me Live Alive, right? Like there was a moment of like someone on horseback galloping through the gorgeously rendered countryside. There was a section where the characters were like on boats, kind of going through some like islands and stuff. Like it feels like this is maybe, I don't know if this is true, a more dynamic version of Octopath Traveler.
I mean, one thing I did really like is the setting seems to be steampunk or at least a little more modern, because there was like steam trains and like all that, and I think that could be really fun to play with. And like I liked my time with Octopath Traveler. I just like hit a point in the game where I didn't want to play anymore.
Right.
I imagine I'm going to pick up Octopath Traveler 2, and maybe that'll be my same experience, but I enjoyed what I played of Octopath Traveler 1. It just wasn't enough to get me to want to finish the game.
Yeah.
But I didn't feel like it was a waste of time. And
yeah, same.
So I imagine that I can have a similarly pleasant experience, whatever that ends up being, with Octopath Traveler 2.
Yeah, I fully expect to play the game, be really enjoying it, hit like a boss that's overpowered, 17 hours into the game, not go back to level up, and then just never play the game anymore. And then I will have gotten 17 hours of enjoyment out of the game. I'll be perfectly happy with that experience of it. Next up is Fae Farm, coming out spring 2023. Don't have anything really to say about this other than to note farming count is now up to 2.
Is this the one that's multiplayer? Can be multiplayer, up to 4 people?
I didn't take a lot of notes on some of these games. Fae Farm. Yes, local and online multiplayer.
Okay.
You can also decorate the house and stuff like that. So there's some sort of Animal Crossing in your farming simulator. But yeah, this is just added to the pile.
Well, up next was another game that actually I was surprised to see, and that's Theatrythm. Final bar, is it Final Bar Line?
Yeah, Final Bar Line. So a bar line in music is something that separates measures. The final bar line is that double black bar line that denotes the end of a piece of music.
Oh, okay. So yeah, so Theatrythm Final Bar Line releases February 16th, 2023.
I want to stop us at the pronunciation of Theatrythm or Theatrythm. The announcer in the direct said Theatrythm, which I guess makes sense.
I'm going with it.
You are welcome to. I'm going to call it Theatrythm. This is where we part ways.
I know. It's a sigh of relief that it's called Theatrythm, because this is that I'm choosing to believe that it's called Theatrythm, because I've never known how this is pronounced before. Yeah. I've never heard anybody say it out loud.
I mean, it wouldn't be a Square Enix game if we could easily say the entire name without second guessing ourselves.
These were what, DS, 3DS games previously?
So the original was a 3DS game that came out in 2012. That's just the Theatrythm Final Fantasy. And then there was a re-release of it a couple years later called Theatrythm Curtain Call, which was also on 3DS and just included more tracks. But this there was something like 200 tracks in the second release of the game. This version has 385 tracks from across the Final Fantasy series.
Yeah, and so it's a rhythm game where you kind of a thing. I haven't played the previous game, and so this may be true there as well. But seemingly from this trailer, it's you kind of go through the plot of each of the Final Fantasy games.
Yeah, seemingly.
Using the significant moments of music to experience the story, which I think is kind of cool. They also said that additional pieces of music from the Saga series, Nier, Octopath, and Live Alive, plus more, a nebulous more, will be available as DLC in the future.
Look, I gotta say, hearing that little bit of Megalomania from Live Alive as one of the tracks, that was enough to make me do I have to buy this game and that DLC? Because I think I absolutely do. There was a Kingdom Hearts version of this called Kingdom Hearts Melody of Memories that came out on everything, but there was a demo for it available on Switch, and I checked that out and I enjoyed what I played of it, I'm just not connected to the Kingdom Hearts music.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously there are Disney songs in there as well, but like I don't know if I can go through and like play stuff from the entire Final Fantasy series. Some of those games have like music that is so near and dear to my heart, and that like is just like etched in my brain forever. Music that I listen to when I'm not playing video games. So yeah, I don't. This seems like Seems like it'll be a fun thing to engage with.
I like that it exists.
Yeah, me too. Next up, we get another look at Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope, still coming out October 20th. Mark, do you have anything to add about Sparks of Hope?
No, and we don't really learn anything particularly new here either.
Especially considering it was just at the that Ubisoft Forward over the weekend. We didn't see that Wiggler, and we didn't get a Rayman tease here.
Yeah,
so,
that's right.
Whatever.
Up next, Rune Factory 3 Special releasing 2023. So a remake of Rune Factory 3. I think we're up to
we're up
Rune
to
Fact
5. Yeah.
And then they tease that something new in Rune Factory is expected in the future.
Okay, but hold on. What they actually said was a new Rune Factory series is expected in the future. So like, what?
Theatrythm. Rune Factory.
It could be a Theatrythm game, and I like that we're insisting on our pronunciations here. Next up, the Nintendo 64 on Nintendo Switch Online. We got a bunch of new games revealed that will be coming out through the course of 2022 and 2023. Pilotwings, Mario Party, and Mario Party 2 are all coming out sometime this year. Mario Party 3, Pokemon Stadium 2, 1080 Snowboarding, and Excitebike 64 are all coming out in 2023. Probably one a month, as has been the sort of pattern so far. But you may say to yourself, wait a minute. Pilotwings, Mario Party 2, that's only 3 games. We've got 4 months left out of this year. What could be filling that 4th month, or the 1st or 2nd or 3rd, depending? Goldeneye 64 was the sort of capstone at the end of this, or Goldeneye 007 is coming soon, was all they would say as to when Goldeneye would be coming out.
Yeah, later in the day we found out that a version of it will be coming to Xbox Game Pass. The Xbox version has improved graphics and frame rate and all that kind of stuff, plus updated controls.
Which is clutch.
The version coming to Switch, like the other Nintendo 64 games, is just the, Nintendo 64 game, but it'll have online play like all of these games that are part of like the Nintendo Switch Online libraries do, and the online play will be exclusive to the Switch version, which I think is so interesting.
It is very interesting, and but I think we have to assume that it has it won't have like online lobbies or anything like that. It'll be the same way that you interact with all the rest of your Nintendo Switch online games. That from any of those libraries where you can join up with someone and then it's like they're in the living room with you.
Yeah.
And because that's not built into Xbox or the Xbox Game Pass, that version won't have the ability to do that. Which is it's fascinating to think that like Nintendo is providing an online service where Xbox is not.
Yeah. These Nintendo 64 games have turned out to be the most exciting of the these like Nintendo Switch Online libraries for me, because I realize there are so many games in the Nintendo 64 library that I have not played for decades at this point because they weren't readily available. Nintendo 64 games showed up on like the Wii Virtual Console.
We had to pay $10 for each one.
Yeah, and I didn't buy a lot of Nintendo 64 games at the time. But there are great games in the Super Nintendo Switch Online library. There are
some
great
of the
games
best
in like the NES, but so many of those are just been like available everywhere for so long that when I see like, oh, I'm gonna be able to play Pilotwings 64 again. I've never played Excitebike 64. Like, I'm gonna be able to experience that. Like, that is exciting to me.
Yeah, it's exciting to me too. The thing that I do find to be a little bit of a bummer is the implication that we're going to get Mario Party 2, and Mario Party 3 in 3 consecutive months. What are we doing? Like, just drop them all at one time. What is this? Also,
Well, and Pokemon Stadium and
and
Pokemon Stadium 2.
Yeah, I'm glad that they're all going to be there. But it's I mean, they are extremely iterative sequels. Not at all like having Super Mario Brothers and Super Mario Brothers 2 and Super Mario Brothers 3 on the NES, NSO. You know, like it's just it doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
And like you pointed out in the Discord discussion this morning, they're really making us way for DK64.
But I am encouraged now in a way that I have not been previously. Donkey Kong 64 and Diddy Kong Racing, I now believe will come at some point. The fact that Goldeneye, they got Xbox in a room, they got Rare in a room, they got Barbara Broccoli in a room, and she said, "Yep, okay, bring that Goldeneye game out on Switch." It's a legal feat, and I can't believe that we're actually to a place now where it's really, really happening.
Yeah, it's too bad that the game is
Almost unplayable.
not that fun.
No. Especially like the Xbox version is improved graphics and frame rate. Frame rate is huge, right? Like GoldenEye, I believe, runs at like sub 10 frames per second. Like, really looks terrible. And then the fact that it has dual analog stick controls in the Xbox version I think that'll make the game playable, but still probably slow and not actually fun.
Yeah.
Whereas the Nintendo 64 version, I think everyone's gonna be mad when it comes out, and it's totally a faithful reproduction of the experience of playing GoldenEye.
I've never I've never beaten, I should say, the single player campaign. So maybe that'll be a goal for myself.
Yeah, that's a good goal. We should both do that because I never have either.
Yeah.
I've played on other people's games that have like the level skip unlocked, because anytime you've cleared a level, you can then just select it from there on out. The game does have a great like suite of like difficulty settings and like cheats and stuff that make it like accessible and fun to play, even if you're bad at shooters. And we'll all be bad at shooters with the classic control scheme. So
up next after that is Various Daylight, an RPG from the Octopath Traveler and Bravely Default developers, but not in that HD 2D like
That's
style. Right. Out today.
Then comes Factorio, which is out on October 28th. This is described as a production line sim. This is remember a couple months ago there was like a train game that we got a trailer for. This looked a lot like that, but instead you're like building stuff.
Following that was
Ib.
I couldn't remember if that's how you said it.
Yeah, that's right.
Releasing spring 2023. It's a kind of like 2D pixel art game where starring a girl who walks around a museum gets sucked into another world.
Does she get sucked through like a painting? It's not clear exactly.
And then kind of has to like find her way out. It looks kind of dark. It's a remake of a 2012 Japanese game. Intriguing for sure.
Yeah, this is definitely one where I was like, oh, I don't know what that is, and I think I like it. Next up was Mario Strikers Battle League getting its update. Again, this falls under the category of like updates that we know games are getting and just sort of getting a few more details. Pauline and Diddy Kong are coming to Mario Strikers Battle League, along with another stadium.
They don't even bother to like say what it is. They're just like, yep, new stadium.
And this is coming out all sometime this month.
Mario Kart 8 Deluxe Booster Course Pass Wave 3 is coming holiday 2022, but they only deigned to give us 2 tracks.
There will be a total of 8 when it finally launches, but yes, here in this trailer, they only showed us 2 tracks.
Which is Merry Mountain from Mario Kart Tour and Peach Gardens from Mario Kart DS, which I was very excited to see.
Love Peach Gardens, love Mario Kart DS. It'll be very exciting.
Excited to hear the music remix for Peach Gardens.
And man, it just like, having just got the second wave, it's so exciting to me that there will be another 8 tracks. When all this is done and the track list has doubled, it's just what an amazing time to be playing Mario Kart.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is followed by Nintendo Switch Sports, golf in particular, which we knew was going to be coming out at some point. That point has now been moved down to holiday 2022. They said they need more time to develop it, and Mark, we will grant them that. It includes online play for up to 8 players doing like an elimination golf kind of thing. I just have to assume pretty similar to the elimination bowling.
Yeah, it seems like
yeah.
it's and they said that the courses are coming from the Wii game, which I guess is kind of a surprise to me.
Well, they said 11 courses from the Wii game.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know if that means there are only those 11 courses or what exactly.
Right. And next we get to Shigeru Miyamoto.
And this, I mean, Yoshiaki Koizumi is hosting most of this thing, but he kicks it over to Miyamoto. And this is I mean, the last time we got kicked over to Miyamoto was when we got the Mario movie casting announcement. So, like, I don't know about you, but my heart was in my throat.
I was really bracing myself. And this was a real showstopper in the sense that the pacing of this was
Wild.
Bizarre. All over the place.
Yes.
So Miyamoto comes in. He's like, hey, it's me, Miyamoto. Got some things to talk about. Remember that Mario movie we're making? And at this point, everybody's like, clutching the arms of the couch that they're sitting on.
Everyone's just white knuckling their way through this Nintendo Direct. And it very interesting that he continues to name both Illumination Entertainment or Illumination Animation and Chris Miladandri as like that's. He's not the director of the film.
Right.
It's just it's funny that like that's who they have to
but
identify.
He is a director. He is a director at Nintendo now.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is interesting that like it's seemingly contractually obligated to mention those two names every time.
Right. Like Quentin Tarantino's 4th film.
Exactly. And so yeah, everybody's bracing themselves. Are we finally going to see like a frame, like anything from this movie? No.
Right, we're all bracing ourselves to see like a Goomba fart or something, right? Doesn't happen.
Doesn't happen. And so then it's like, okay, what else could this be then? So then Miyamoto moves on and talks about Super Nintendo World opening at Universal Studios Hollywood in 2023.
Very exciting.
But that's it.
Yeah, no dates that's opening, no like new features or anything like that.
Nope.
Just saying it has existed here in Japan for like a year now, and we will be opening in Hollywood soon.
And so why talk about any of that when you can talk about Pikmin Bloom
for like 4.5 uninterrupted minutes?
Like really explaining what Pikmin Bloom is, and I have to wonder why.
And not just explaining it, but like. It's basically the experience of you're visiting your friends and your friends have an 11-year-old and the 11-year-old is showing you how they play Pikmin Bloom, right? Because we see just like footage of the phone, of like the screen of Miyamoto's phone. Because he's like, here I am, I'm mostly up here in Kyoto, but I also, it's just like,
sometimes I'm in Tokyo.
Oh, God.
Yeah, it was so funny to me. But I really do have to ask, Patrick, why do you think we got like this about Pikmin Bloom after it has been out for like a year? Do you think it is a contractual obligation? Do you think that it is not performed as well as they wanted, and so they're trying to like goose it? Like, what do you think prompted this like mini commercial for Pikmin Bloom at this point in its life?
I mean, honestly, I think at some point I think anytime they do a Nintendo Direct, someone has to reach out to Mr. Miyamoto and they're just like, hey, do you have anything you want to present in this thing? And usually he's like, oh no, I'm okay. But this time he was like, yeah, I want to talk about the fun time I've been having with Pikmin Bloom. Because it's not even like Pikmin is one of his babies, right? Like as a series, but Pikmin Bloom is not one of his games.
Right.
He just likes it.
But yeah, I think you hit on something there that I think you're right that like Pikmin is one of his babies.
Yeah.
Because
he also directed some of those the animated shorts
right.
a couple years back.
Yeah, and so the fact that he did this part of the presentation to talk about Pikmin Bloom and then to reveal that Pikmin 4 is releasing next year, like he is the face of very few franchises at Nintendo anymore, and but he continues to be the face of Pikmin.
Yeah, absolutely. One is also like this is the only time that we got anything about a mobile game, right?
Yeah.
Like, so he is still representing those other pillars that you were mentioning at the top of the show, right? The other ways that Nintendo is like worming its way into people's lives that aren't video games, or at least that aren't console games, is here's the movie, here's the theme park, and here's a mobile game.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And then capped it off with, and that's how we bring you back to console games, i.e. Pikmin 4 coming out at some point.
Yeah, 2023 is what they said, but no footage. They did show a still from it and Miyamoto talked about like it's a different perspective, like down from the Pikmin's point of view.
Yeah.
And also mentioned that like the Switch makes it easier to control or like different to control or something like that. Like, but that's all we got. And the fact that there was no footage or anything makes me think that it is, again, that's one of the reasons I think that there's a new generation of hardware coming out
Sure.
and that this game will be released for it.
I gotta say that nice low camera angle does it makes me excited that it'll be a little bit more actiony, and that the control will feel a little bit more like immediate and less like real-time strategy.
And we no longer have to wonder, does Pikmin 4 exist? Because Miyamoto's been talking about Pikmin 4 for
years.
Yeah, like at least 5 years.
Yeah.
And I'm sure at some point it was like rebooted or something like that.
Probably.
But Pikmin 3 did really well. And so, yeah, just another Nintendo franchise that is riding the high tide of the Nintendo Switch's success.
Yeah, and I do hope that Pikmin 4 comes out before whatever like switch over in hardware so that it has the opportunity to sell at the levels of like a Splatoon or whatever.
Do you think sorry, this is again my like whatever projection on what I think hardware is. Do you think that we see Nintendo do a similar thing to that Sony did where it's like generations, this cross-generation thing where it's like, yeah, Pikmin 4 is gonna be released on both. Like, you don't need the new Switch to play it. You just need the new Switch if you want it in 4K. But you can still, and for like a year or whatever, they are releasing games on both.
Yeah, I mean, I would, yeah, I absolutely think that. I think that everyone else is doing, hardware that like kind of, or software that scales to whatever the hardware is because you want to release it on so many different platforms, including like anything that goes out on PC. Like, you need to have all these sliders and whatnot. And I think that may just be what Nintendo also has to embrace from the current generation to whatever the next ends up looking like. But also, we'll see. Maybe it'll be a hard cutoff and it'll be something confusing and infuriating to all of us.
Yeah, not backwards compatible at all. You have to sign up for a new type of account.
Oh my God, we definitely are. Next up, Just Dance 2023 coming out November 22nd. No, this one is not coming to the Wii.
That's right. They're talking about it being like it's a whole new Just Dance 2023, and at the end, I think they said it was like a never-ending party, which just made me think of The Exterminating Angel, which is it's a movie where like people just physically cannot leave a party as much as they want to.
Wow.
Yeah. It just seems
Sounds
like
bad.
I know exactly. A never-ending party, a hell of your own making.
Please
Just Dance
let me
2023.
stop partying,
Yeah,
please.
in the trailer, the woman like falls onto the couch exhausted and then gets a text.
Yeah.
And she has to like get up again.
Yeah.
And start dancing.
This
That is her.
Sisyphusian dance.
And then was Harvestella, which we had seen at a previous Nintendo Director Partner Showcase.
And at a Nintendo Treehouse.
That's right. In this most recent one, they did show it off, releasing on November 4th. This is another like farming sim type thing.
We're counting it. That's farming count number 3 right there. We're counting it. It's part of the count now. There's a demo available for this game right now. This one really leans into the like dark fantasy. This is Square Enix. So there are demons and combat and like I feel like combat is sort of woven into a lot of these farming games, but this one seems to be a little bit more centrally featured.
Yep. And there's a demo out now.
Yeah, that's right. And then Bayonetta 3 is next, still coming out October 28th. I don't know if there was anything new in this trailer, but they were I really thought the narrative of that they were setting up was funny. That the first one, Bayonetta was fighting to recover her memories. She's fighting for herself. In the second one, she's rescuing her friend from some demons. And in the third one, she's fighting to save the world. So the progression is self, friends, world. So sure, why not?
Yeah.
We're elevating the stakes at perfect third beat of a herald. So yeah, let's do it.
It was also in Bayonetta when they were summarizing Bayonetta 2 was like, I played Bayonetta 2. Is that what that game was about?
I mean, I find the lore of those games to be pretty much inscrutable, but I know that's also part of the charm.
Up next is Raincode, coming spring 2023 from the makers of Danganronpa. It's a detective haunted by a ghost that helps him solve mysteries. In fact, like there's a what is the Sorry, I'm gonna look it up. There's like a subtitle or something to this. It's
is there?
Master Detective Archives Raincode.
Yeah,
is the full title of it.
So it is taking a sort of like detective style game, but also you get like launched into like dungeons in your mind to try and like bring your theory in line with the memory of what happened.
Right, and like the demons in the dungeons are like throwing truth and lie at you, and you're like slashing the lies. It
This
just
looks
seems
dope. This looks so cool.
It looks so crazy.
I'm very excited for this one. I hope it's good. Comes out spring 2023. Next up, Mark, let's talk about Resident Evil Village cloud version, and then let's also talk about 3 other Resident Evil games that are all basically next-gen games, Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 3, and Resident Evil Biohazard, that are all going to be available on Switch via cloud versions. Resident Evil Village comes out on October 28th. There's a demo out today, which is probably just a demo to help you understand what you're buying when you buy the cloud version of this thing. And then there's DLC coming to Village out on December 2nd. What's going on here?
I continue to be very curious about the economics of cloud versions, because I personally don't know anybody who, just like anecdotally, who has played them.
Yeah.
Like who is really invested in the cloud versions on Nintendo Switch, especially when all of these games are at this point available on other platforms for very cheap routinely.
Well, and that's, I think, going to be the kicker here. I haven't checked, but if I had to guess, I would say that all of these games, $60 each.
Yeah, I would guess you're right too, because that has been the pattern in the past, that we saw with Square Enix. I also thought it was, years ago.
But not just sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
But not just Square Enix. Like, yes.
Oh yeah, Control was $60.
Control was also $60. Yeah.
Years ago, I think in 2017 or 2018, in Japan, Capcom had a cloud version of Resident Evil Biohazard, like the Resident Evil 7, but that never came here. And so it is interesting to me to see 7, 8, plus the remakes of 2 and 3 coming to Switch. But again, like, are they must be successful enough, these cloud versions, that they are worth doing, but I don't know if that's because a lot of people are buying them or because they are a low level of effort.
Right, especially because they must be preparing these things for streaming on other platforms too, like Luna and Stadia. And do these things still exist? I think they still exist, right?
Luna does. Stadia maybe exists in some form. I'm not really sure. You don't hear about it much.
But the fact of the matter is that there is some streaming going on somewhere. And so if they're already prepping it for one, like, what exactly is the additional investment to make sure that it is also streamable on Switch? Maybe not that much.
Then we kick into a rapid fire, just kind of like one-offs. So Sifu, the roguelike kung fu game, is releasing on Nintendo Switch on November 8th.
Performance on this looked rough. It just looked very framey.
And this is one that, again, another game that's already out on other platforms and now being ported to Switch.
We got to see a little bit of Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion, which is the remake/remaster, it's not totally clear, of Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII, a prequel to Final Fantasy VII, and it all is like done to, it feels like it's more in line with the mechanics and visual style of the remake. that launches on December 13th. That's coming to like all platforms.
Radiant Silvergun, a classic shoot 'em up, is releasing today. Is probably out already.
Endless Dungeon, which is like a dungeon explory kind of game, is coming out next year.
Tales of Symphonia Remastered is releasing, I believe this is next year on Nintendo Switch. So Tales of Symphonia, one of the big GameCube exclusives, but the remaster was not released on Nintendo platforms. It released on like Xbox and
Oh, is that the story here?
PlayStation,
Okay.
and now I think is finally coming to Switch.
It's interesting. What do you know about, like, are the games good? Are they fun? Like,
So I think like the Tales of is a series that's been running for a long time. I've never played any of them before.
Yeah.
Tales of Symphonia was my kind of like introduction to the series existing, because in the GameCube era I was a GameCube player, and so anytime there was like a new release like this, they were talking about it a lot in Nintendo Power. And so but I think Tales of Symphonia is one of the well-regarded entries in the Tales series, but I've never played it personally.
Do you have any sense of whether the graphical style that we see in this remaster is like in line with the graphical style of because it looks kind of like chibi.
It does, and
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know.
I would love to hear some from some classic Tales of Symphonia fans. Let us know. Is this a horrible aesthetic defying choice that they're making here, or what? Next up is Life is Strange Arcadia Bay Collection. It's coming out on the 27th, September 27th.
Did True Colors ever release on? Did that ever like actually come out on Switch? Up next was
But that's another Square Enix right there.
Yep, that's right. Romancing Saga Minstrel Song Remastered is launching on Nintendo Switch December 1st.
Then Lego Brick Tales coming out this fall on Switch. I don't know. I don't really know anything about Brick Tales, but it looks like you're actually like building stuff from like a bird's eye view, and then like interacting with it, which sounds like a fun way to interact with like Lego style gameplay.
Yeah, a totally different take on Lego games. Disney Speedstorm from Gameloft, just a reminder that it's coming sometime this year. There really wasn't any other discussion of it.
Oh, and we saw this game also in the partner showcase a couple months ago, and just this last weekend at D23. So like they're slowly like just positioning this thing, and we'll find out more when it comes out. Then Fall Guys Season 2, which begins on September 15th.
And then a game I could not believe
Shocking.
existed. I was confident that we would get no Kirby games. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. The Forgotten Land released in March.
Dream Buffet.
Got Dream Buffet just a few weeks ago.
Crystal
You're telling me
Shards.
they're going to release another Kirby game already?
Yeah.
I wouldn't. Yesterday I shut down Patrick so fast.
It's true.
So hard. And yet
I didn't appreciate it.
Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe, releasing February 24th, 2023, revealed here. Originally a Wii game, remastered or remade, not really clear to me, for the Switch, with 4-player local co-op.
And a new power-up, the like mech suit something or other. Yeah, I don't. It's why are we getting why? And I guess it's next year that it's coming out, so like it won't be in the same year as and the Forgotten Land, but like it's a lot of Kirby. It's a lot of Kirby on this on this machine.
I've never played this one before.
Yeah, me neither. It is also coming with a collection of sub games. I believe they called them mini games. But Mark, you and I know better from Kirby Month that they are to be referred to as sub games. And it was cool to see a lot of them that we did play and mess around with during our Kirby Month, whenever the heck that was, last year, I guess. Earlier this year? When did we do Kirby Month?
Must have been earlier this year because it timed up with the release of Forgotten Land.
That's absolutely right. That's right. And then, Mark, one more thing, one last announcement, and then we go. It is the reveal of the trailer to the sequel to Breath of the Wild. and that comes with a name announcement, which is, of course, The Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom.
Tears is in like the things that fall from your eyes.
Tears,
and not
yes, that's right.
From not layers in a cake. May 12th, a title and a release date, May 12th, 2023, and that's pretty much it. We see a glimpse of new footage, and some like cutscene illustration type things.
Right, and the action that the sort of tapestry-esque thing that we see, I would say not really anything to divine from that, or at least nothing that I could divine from it.
Right. I feel like you see like a Zelda-like figure.
You see like a Zelda-like figure
floating up.
There's also a point where there are like 7 little wispy things around, and like, is that 7 sages? Like, what is what's going on here? And then some sort of like villainous character who doesn't appear to be Ganondorf, but again, who knows? And then the actual action of the game, Link jumping off seemingly a floating island down to the world below, very much a la Skyward Sword, like very much, like even putting his arms out and like falling much the same way, which again we've sort of seen in previous footage, but then in this one he lands on like some like stone bird thing,
right?
Which is very interesting and cool, and who knows how free it is to fly around the sky on that thing. We also see Link like grab onto something that appears to be falling up, be it through time manipulation or something. There's like a yellowed out like translucent outline of the thing, which gives the impression of like the Sheikah Slate abilities from the first game. And then other than that, we see him just like kind of climbing around on other stuff. And I know there's other stuff to drill into there, but mostly it's exciting to know that we're getting this game in May of next year.
Yeah, 8 months.
8 months.
It's still pretty far away. Yeah.
I think still far enough away that it could be delayed.
Could be delayed, and now I'm like, I guess it actually does make sense why we didn't get a big blowout on this, because there's still plenty of time for them to tell us more about it. But I want to talk about the title.
Okay.
Tears of the Kingdom, because Zelda titles are very literal historically.
Okay.
Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, Twilight Princess, Wind Waker, right? Like
they refer to specific, with the exception of Breath of the Wild, though.
But I would say yes, Breath of the Wild is more lyrical, but also captures the essence of that game and like the discovery aspect of it like so well. And so Tears of the Kingdom is very, very intriguing to me, because if it is as literal as other Zelda titles have been, what does it mean?
Yeah, well, and it's fascinating that it is evoking the same construction as Breath of the Wild, right? This is still blank of the blank, and with the second blank being like a location or like evocative of a space, and Breath of the Wild being such a that's like nature. It's like nature, and this is like sorrow and like civilization. So like, I don't know, this to me suggests some sort of apocalypse, some sort of like active participation in the end of the world or the end of civilization. I don't know, we haven't seen like any NPCs or anything in any of the footage that we've seen.
We have seen such little footage.
Yes.
Like, I think all lined up, it's like 20 seconds or something at most.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, what do you think about the
I don't know. I love your interpretation of it. I'm very intrigued as to what it could mean.
When this comes out in May of 2023, that'll be 6 years between, a little over 6 years between mainline Zelda releases, right? Because we've gotten remakes and remasters since then, but like it has been a long time.
Yeah,
since the last real Zelda game. I'm very excited to play it when it does come out. Mark, that's it. We've made our way now through the entire Nintendo Direct. I would like to point out, didn't get a Game & Watch.
No Game & Watch.
That makes me think that happened twice and won't happen again.
Same with like the minis, right?
Yeah,
like
totally.
the NES,
Yep.
was it Classic Edition? Is that what
Yeah.
they called them? And then the Super Nintendo Classic Edition. Then they were done.
Yep. They're like, we
They
did
got it
that
out
thing
of their
twice.
system.
What do you want us to do? A third time? I don't think so. I think we've hit sort of the greatest hits of what wasn't in here that could have been in here. But is there anything else that you felt like this was missing, or anything else that you were sort of expecting to see here that you didn't?
You know, I remain surprised that we have not gotten a new 2D Mario game.
Yeah.
And it makes me intrigued as to what it just feels like they're being so cagey about 2023.
Yeah.
Like, even the things that we know, like the second half of 2023, which a long ways away, and Nintendo, holds their cards close. But the
Right.
fact that, like, they announced Pikmin 4 for next year, but didn't show any footage, like, it just feels like some of this is, like, cagey in a way that Nintendo usually is not.
Yeah. Well, and like what's interesting here is like, I know we mentioned all of like the big rumored things already, but like, yeah, I believe that a Metroid Prime remake is ready to go, right? And has been for a while. And like, what are they waiting for? Like, what is it? Where are these Zelda ports? Like,
Right.
and not in like I'm owed it, so give it to me kind of way, but in just like, what's going on? Like, what are they really? Because we yesterday we were talking about would it make sense to even put out these long Zelda games when the new Zelda game is like going to come out soon, and like the games take so long to get through that like you don't want to burn people out. But like, you could put out Wind Waker tomorrow, and then like 8 months later when Tears of the
Right.
Kingdom come out, like people will have played what they were going to play of it, will be to give it a rest and be ready to play again. So yeah, it's fascinating to think like, what have they got in the chamber? What are they holding it for? And what does 2023 bring?
Yeah, totally.
All right, Mark, let's close out our conversation about the Nintendo Direct from September 2022. And of course, we'd love to hear everyone else's feedback about how they felt about this presentation. Things you liked, things you didn't like. Were there any games here that we didn't give enough of a fair shake to? Maybe. Could have been. Did we give up on our farm count halfway through? Yeah, well, we did that. That's criticism that I'll take. Is there anything that we're giving too much leeway to? Should we not be excited about Raincode? Like, let us know. Write into us, Nintendo Cartridge Society
At gmail.com.
And that is going to do it for this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society. Remember, please rate, review, and follow us on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. If you like the episode, you should share it on Facebook or Twitter. Let people know that there are two friendly guys having a fun conversation about Nintendo Directs out in a sea of people being grumpy about it. And send them over to us. We would appreciate that a lot if you did. You can follow us on Twitter. I'm at Patrick_Ellers. Mark is at MKE Mitchell, and the show is at Nin Cart Society. We also have a Facebook page, which is just Nintendo Cartridge Society. Anthony DeLuca made our logo. Our theme music is provided by 8-Bit Betty. You can get more of his music by going to 8bitbetty.com or by listening right now. For my co-host, Mark Mitchell, this is Patrick Eller saying thank you for listening.